Guys, like, comment, subscribe, share the video. Especially if you love not college football, MMA as much as I do. College football is basically over. This is another one of those who would win fights. Probably my fourth one, right? I think so. Mark Coleman versus Kevin Randleman. I know Kevin Randleman's dead. Shout out to Kevin Randleman. Rest in peace. Excuse me. But this is a fight that could have happened at one point in at least two different occasions. It could have happened. No, just once actually. In the Pride Grand Prix in 2004. If Mark Coleman had beat Fedor Emelianenko and Kevin Randleman went on to win against Crow Cop, those two would have fought each other instead of Kevin Randleman and Fedor Emelianenko. Did you realize that? I just realized that yesterday. So it's interesting because Kevin Randleman was Mark Coleman's student. Coleman was his coach. He's the one that brought him into MMA. He's the one that introduced him to the sport. He's the one that taught him. But it doesn't always work that way with the student not beating the master. You know, let's talk about a fight at heavyweight between those two if they had actually fought. Mark Coleman, I think, was the better grappler. I think he was a better wrestler than Kevin Randleman was. Just a little bit because he done it a lot longer and it actually took it to the Olympics level. Stand-up, I think Kevin Randleman was better. He had more knockouts. He didn't get knocked out by Crow Cop. Mark Coleman did, actually. And if you look at the resume, he's actually beaten Maurice Smith. Mark Coleman lost to Maurice Smith. He beat Pedro Hizo, dominated him. He was able to stand with him, too, and beat him up there. Mark Coleman lost to Pedro Hizo in a competitive decision. He beat Pete Williams. Mark Coleman lost to Pete Williams. He has actually beaten Crow Cop. Mark Coleman never beat Crow Cop. They both have lost to Randy Couture. So this will be an interesting fight. They're both similar in styles. I personally think that if Mark Coleman was at his best and Kevin Randleman was at his best when he was UFC, when they were both UFC heavyweight champions, I think Kevin Randleman would have took the fight. He would have beat him. And I'll tell you why. Although I think Coleman was a better wrestler, they would have been able to neutralize each other's wrestling ability because they're both so powerful and they're both so strong and both so good at wrestling to the point where it would have forced that fight to stand more. And therefore, I think Kevin Randleman would have got the better of a stand-up exchange than Mark Coleman did. So I don't think this fight would have gone the distance. It might have gone the distance. It probably would have been a little boring because both their styles are so similar. But because I think Kevin Randleman was a better athlete, I think he was a better striker than Mark Coleman was. I do think Kevin Randleman would have edged him out on the feet, and he wouldn't have been able to do just enough to hold off Mark Coleman's wrestling. Coleman might have gotten a takedown or two at best, but Kevin Randleman probably would have gotten a takedown or two also, and he would have been stronger than Mark Coleman, especially in the clinch. Coleman was just more old school of a grappler, ground and pound guy. Whereas Kevin Randleman could do the same thing, but he can stand with you if he needs to. You can ask Crow Cop, you can ask Pedro Hizo that question, you know. You can ask Pete Williams that too. So Maurice Smith, the same thing. All great strikers. So without any further ado, I think Kevin Randleman, either by unanimous decision or a late TKO, ground and pound, or a big punch to where he puts Coleman on the ground and follows it up with strikes. A TKO or a late TKO. If it was a 3-round fight, late third round, late fourth, early fifth round, if this was a title fight, main event fight, or a unanimous decision for Kevin Randleman.